So it is time for another book review. I was planning to do this next month and just do it quarterly, but I've been reading so many books that I didn't want to make this video super long, so I think I'm going to switch to monthly. So to catch up, we're going to talk about all the books I read in April and May this year. A lot of the books I read I got from the library, so I don't have physical copies with me anymore, but I'll put them on screen so you can see which ones I've read, and I will rate them so you know um, which ones I thought were really good. So the first one I started in April was Yellowface. I've been hearing a lot about this online. I actually did not like this one. I think I gave it a 3-star. It just, the premise of this book is that a really well-known Asian American author passes away and her friend, who happens to be white, steals her identity. And so it's told through that person's lens, the person who's stealing the identity. And it was just, it was, it was a thriller and really suspenseful, and that kind of gives me anxiety. I also just, I don't know. I think I was really sensitive to this one. It was an interesting story, but I just don't think it was for me with the emotions it brought up. So if you remember in my last review, I was talking about a couple books from Lisa C. One of the books I read from her was Shanghai Girls, and in that review, I was saying how it abruptly ended, and I was wondering if there was a sequel to it. There is, and it's called Dreams of Joy. And so it's a continuation of that story, and it takes place right after the first one leaves off, and it concludes that story of that family that comes from China during World War II and how they're treated terribly in America, and all these things happen to their family. And then in this book, the daughter, she goes back to China when she's like 19, 20, young college girl. She runs away from her family and thinks she's going to find happiness in China. And it's right when China is um, coming into its communist state. And so it has a lot of history about that time period. And it was really fascinating, and it wrapped up the story really well. So I really enjoyed that. And I'm really glad there was a sequel to that book, because otherwise it was a letdown. This story made reading both of them worth it. The third book I read in April was The 7-Year Slip. It's about a magical apartment that it transport you back in time 7 years when you're having a difficult time. And it was a really good book. It deals a lot with loss and grief over loved ones, and it was right as Charlotte was passing. And so reading that book gave me a lot of closure during that time frame. So I'm really glad I read it. I gave it to my mom to read since she's been reading lately, and I thought she would enjoy it. And that one was definitely worth the read. After that book, I read The Little Book of Hygge. In the previous review, I read the other book by this author. I think it was Hygge Home. And out of the two books, I think I preferred the first one. I did enjoy this one. It had a lot of neat facts, but a lot of it was also shared in the book of Hygge and Home, whatever it's called. Um, and I just like that that one was centered on the home specifically. Yeah, so out of the two books, I would recommend reading Hygge Home first. This one was good, and I plan to read the rest of his books, but I enjoyed the other one a little bit more. Next, I read Laziness Does Not Exist. So I thought this book would be about how to get more things done, be more productive, how to get over bouts of when you're feeling lazy or stuck in a state of inertia or just feeling unproductive. But it was actually about people who are very productive, um, type A personalities who are always on the go, always doing something, always trying to achieve something. And the reason why people are are that way is because they believe in the laziness lie, which basically tells them that they're lazy, and in order to prove that they're not, they just keep achieving. And so this delves into that, and it was really fascinating. I learned a lot from it. Let me just read a little bit about what the laziness lie is. Okay. So the laziness lie is a belief system that says hard work is morally superior to relaxation, that people who aren't productive have less innate value than productive people. It's an unspoken yet commonly held set of ideas and values. It affects how we work, how we set limits in our relationships, our views on what life is supposed to be about. And there are three main tenets of the laziness lie. That one, your worth is your productivity. Two, you cannot trust your own feelings and limits. And three, there is always more you could be doing. And I totally bought into those things. I don't necessarily think that the reason I'm productive is because underneath it all, I think I'm a lazy person, which is what Dr. Devin Price says, is that most people feel like they are lazy. And so to cover it up, they're always productive. For me, I don't feel that's true, but I do feel like I've been taught that my worth is tied to being productive and achieving. And for me, it was a way to mask being autistic. Dr. Price has a couple other books specific to autism. I don't know if this came out before or after they were diagnosed with autism and ADHD, but it definitely applies to anyone, whether they're neurodivergent or not. I also read The Birth of Venus. This was a book I had read a long time ago, but couldn't remember the I couldn't remember the story at all, so I decided to reread it. I'm sure I enjoyed it the first time I read it, but I didn't this time. I used to be really into historical fiction books, but I've been finding lately that I'm tired of historical fiction books where the main character is a woman, usually a young woman, and goes through a bunch of trauma and a bunch of abuse by men and other people. And I think I'm getting more sensitive to that. And there was a lot of stuff that just gave me an ick factor, and I just didn't enjoy it. So I'm trying to really watch what historical books I get, because I feel like a lot of them, it's like the main character, female, usually has to go through something really traumatic before she finds her voice or finds her inner power or what have you. And I'm tired of struggling, and I'm tired of hearing those struggles about women, especially way back when women didn't have any rights at all. I also read another Agatha Christie book, Death on the Nile. I think I would have enjoyed it more had I not already seen the movie and kind of knew the plot line. It was a good book, but it varied slightly from the movie, as books and movies usually do. And so it was hard for me to be focused on the book because I was trying to remember what happened in the movie. So I was jumping ahead and was waiting for different things to happen. Um, it was a good book. It was an easy read and I did enjoy it. I just wish I had read it before watching the movie, probably. Okay, so now onto the books I read in May. I read 3 books by the author Abby Jimenez. So her books are loosely connected to each other. I started reading them out of order, not knowing that. But that's okay. You can read them out of order. It just makes a tiny bit more sense if you do read them in order. So I started with the 5th or 6th book, and that was called Yours Truly. And I just picked it up because I was running through the library. I had seen that author a lot on Bookstagram, and so I just grabbed it. I didn't even read the back cover, which I'm glad I didn't, because the back of the book cover did not do the actual book justice. So far it's been my favorite of the 3 I've read. It's about 2 doctors. One has attachment issues because she had a really bad breakup, and then the other doctor has really bad social anxiety and also had a really bad breakup, and these 2 people really complement each other. I really feel like one of the characters could have been autistic, because a lot of the things he went through, I feel like I have similar experiences with. And so it was a really great story of just finding someone who understands you and accepts you for who you are, and just gets you without you having to explain how you are. So that one was my favorite of the three. I gave it a 5 star. The other two I read were the Happily Ever After playlist, which is the second book in the series, and then the Friend Zone, which is the first book in the series. Those two were okay. Both of the stories kind of seemed unrealistic, and I feel like those two books, even though they were decent, they um in real life, the situations that the characters go through would have been huge red flags where your therapist or friends would have said stay away from that person. But in the books, they turn those red flags into misunderstandings, which in my mind, I feel like if you're already having difficulty in life trying to tell if someone is into you or not, or if they value you, and you're being thrown books that are saying, oh, it's just a miscommunication, um, like keep going and it'll get better. Because that's how the stories are. It's like the whole book is one misunderstanding. Like there's a scene in one of them where um, there's a misunderstanding where the male character could have been cheating the on the woman, but it was a big misunderstanding where I feel like in real life it definitely would have been like a cheating scenario. So I didn't really enjoy the the first two books in the series because they just kind of also gave me an ick factor of like if you're trying to get away from red flags, these books are disguising them as true love. Um, I do want to keep reading the other books in her series to see if if they eventually evolve into better, less complicated relationships because I really like that first one I read, but so far I'm on the fence about um, this book series. The next book I read was Black Cake by Shermaine Wilkerson. This one was an amazing book. I really liked it. It's got historical fiction. Um, it's about this whole family that is from Jamaica and just has a lot of secrets in their family history. It's a beautiful story about this family who originally came from Jamaica, um, but they don't know really their family history because there's a lot of secrets that their parents have kept from them. And um, after the mom passes away, then the two grown-up children find out all these things that they never knew and their long lost history to Jamaica and family tradition. Definitely one of my favorite ones that I've read this year. She has one more book out called, I think, Good Dirt. I have it on reserve at the library, but I think I'm still like number 3 in line, so it might take a little while to get to me, but I'm really excited to read that. And then another one similar to this was Everything We Never Had. This one is another book that's told through multiple generations. I think this is one of the first books that I've been reading that isn't mainly based about on the female experiences and having like strong women. This one has strong men. Um, this one is about a family that originally came from the Philippines in like the early 1920s, 1930s, like right around the Great Depression, and it goes through 4 generations of men and how they just can't connect to their fathers and just can't understand why their fathers are making the decisions they made in life, and they're all trying not to be like their fathers. Um, and then eventually, the three men in the cover, it's a grandfather, father, and son. They all end up living together under the same roof during COVID and trying to reconnect and rebuild those bridges. And it was really powerful. You both felt connected to each generation, but you at the same time you could also see why the generation after that struggles, um, why the generation after that has a really hard time connecting with their parents and are really angry with them with the choices they made. But I also like this book because it had a realistic ending and it wasn't all happily ever after. Like the families just suddenly, all of a sudden, understand each other and all that generational trauma is suddenly healed. It has a very realistic ending, a positive ending, but it was really good. Um, this is another author that I definitely want to read other works from him. Um, yeah, really, really strong writer and excellent character development in this one. Okay, I think we're almost done. We have two more to go. After that, I read Great Gatsby. This one, this one I read probably either in high school or college and really liked it then. As an adult, I I didn't really connect with it anymore. I feel like it just didn't make sense to me. Like the choices the characters made, or like the characters themselves, it was just kind of outlandish, and which I guess is the whole point kind of the book. But yeah, I did not like it. The last book I read was The Valkyries by Paulo Coelho. Coelho. It's the author of The Alchemist, and this book was weird. I feel like I think it's based on a true story of the author's life. Um, but it was really strange. It was really religious, but in like a weird new new age sort of way that I just did not understand. So the characters, or the author and his wife, go on a journey through New Mexico, Arizona area to seek out his guardian angel, and not only to speak to his guardian angel, but to actually see his guardian angel in real life. And it had all these like mystical new age elements that just left me super confused. And I don't know how much of this is true or how much is fiction, but I just it did I yeah, I don't recommend this one. I really like The Alchemist, or at least I did when I read it a long time ago, but now now I'm not so sure after reading this one if I would enjoy that one anymore either. So yeah, that one was interesting, but not for me. Um, Overall, I feel like I've had a really good experience picking books that I enjoy. Most of them I've given 4 or 5 stars, which is pretty good. There's only been like an occasional one that I don't like. Um, but I think it's because I'm just picking books that I really like, I want to read. I don't feel like I have to read any of these books. I just go for things that either the cover looks good, or the little write up on the back seems interesting, or people on Instagram who I usually like their taste have recommended. And so I've just been like dabbling, um, and it's been going pretty well so far. I feel like I am slowing down a bit reading wise so far. So this one was book number 31 that I read this year. So I am reading about 6 books a month. April, I think I read like 8 or 9. May, I only read a couple. June, I feel like I'm slowing down. I don't know if it's because I'm spending more time outdoors, or sometimes I just need a break from reading. I don't want to force it because then it feels like a chore instead of enjoyment. So I just kind of pick up the book whenever I feel like it, instead of like making myself read every single day. Um, but I have a couple coming up that I am really excited to read. There's a couple new releases that I'm excited to get, and I have a couple holds at the library that I'm excited for. So I think I have enough to like keep that interest going. I think in May, I think part of my reading struggle was that I just wasn't looking forward to reading a lot of the books that I had because I was trying not to buy new ones because I have been going over my book spending budget. So I didn't really feel like reading a lot of the books on my shelves, but I'm slowly going through those to read. So I think that wraps everything up. I hope you enjoyed this. If you have any book recommendations you think I'd like, I would love to hear them. Or if you've read any of these books, I'd love to hear your thoughts on them as well. But thank you for coming along, and I will see you next month for another book review.